So today, let's talk health. A lot of my friends recently have gotten really sick. And we're not just talking about, a little cold here and there, just really sick. And they're young. A lot of them are like at least 10 years younger than me. I too had some possible health issues as I'm growing older. I'm 56 now. And I had to really monitor it. I grew up Filipino. If you know Filipino food, it's lechon, which is roast pork and chicken adobo, lumpia, which is like those little spring rolls, pancit, which is the glass noodles, and that's a lot of meat and carbs. And I enjoyed it. Fried chicken. And I'm still an avid fried chicken fan. So as I'm getting older, my tests are coming back with really high A1Cs into pre-diabetes. And consistently. I also think during the pandemic, I have to be honest, I kind of slipped a little bit. I was doing so well. I was intermittent fasting and working out, going to the gym. But the pandemic, what are you doing? Like, you can't go out. There's no gyms. I was lucky to be living around Santa Monica, so I did walk a lot and bike a lot. But I said, and also like, as an actor, I don't have to like think about being in front of a camera for a whole year. So man, did I rock it with shopping for things. And I think I was also a stress eater. I'm less of a stress eater now, but a few years ago, even as far back as just 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna eat then, and really, and it was so good, like big bunches of garlic bread and not homemade stuff, and burgers, and I would order in, which I didn't do, and didn't eat as much fruits and vegetables, and really eating late at night, which is never a good thing. But I'm like, whatever. I can work it off when we have to go back to work after the pandemic. But I was in a bit of a delusional state, thinking, oh yeah, I'm 25 and my metabolism. No, reality hits. No. I was about 30 or 40 pounds probably overweight, which was never like, wow. And just kind of not really looking at it until my body started to ache in different places, and I started moving a little slower, and my breathing was starting to get more labored, and but I was smart enough to keep going to the doctor, doing the yearly checkup. I definitely did that. I started doing that way back when. Just to my whole family, they're all their health isn't good in certain ways, and so I wanted to make sure I kept things in check. But I was getting pretty into the danger zones. And then there was this, as I get older, like a man, and if this is TMI, there was a possible risk of me having prostate cancer. And that was like, whoa, this is kind of scary, the C word. But it all worked out. But what I really made sure was, like, I got in charge of my weight again and what I put in my body. And of recently, I think in the past year, I've decided to become plant forward. And I didn't think I'd really enjoy it. And I was like, I'm going to go back because I grew up with like so much meat and fat and all that sort of stuff. I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much, but let me just fix this. I feel like the microphone's a little off here. Just going to just adjust the microphone here. A little off, but now I feel so much better. I've lost a bunch of weight. I still have a little bit ways to go, but I feel so much better, and realizing that it's the taste and texture that I really love about food versus the protein end of the whole, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to get my protein. It's not, plants aren't a viable form of protein, blah, 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 the stuff that I believed in. Don't get me wrong. As you can see in my profiles and stuff, I am still a fried chicken fan. You cannot take that away from me. And, you know, number one for me, of course, it being Filipino, is Jollibee. We love our Jollibee, and now it's a treat for me. And I'll still have some other stuff, but I rarely have meat at home. And now I mostly have beans, and I've always loved brown rice. I think a lot of Filipinos grew up with white rice, and they don't want to change. They just don't like the flavors which you grew up with. But I love brown rice and the things to do with it. And now I'm like obsessed. I am obsessed with like finding new recipes, like even a chicken adobo. I forgot, like there's a Filipino version called adobo tokwa, which is basically tofu, and it's the same braising method with like the garlic and the vinegar and everything. So it's just as good, I feel, because the flavor is the same, and I actually like the texture. And I don't mind, people try to hide the tofu. They try to pretend that it's something else, but I love tofu, and there's other ways to do it now. And now I make, vegan cookies and, with almond flour. Again, I'm just enjoying more of the flavor than anything else. And over the pandemic, I got so good at cooking because I did get tired of paying all this money for getting this soggy food delivered, like Chinese takeout and stuff. But hey, we got to make decisions, right? Do I want to have longevity as an artist? Do I want to keep doing what I love doing? And again, I just felt like it was getting in the way of my auditions because I just wasn't as healthy and as present as I could have been. And it was slowing me down. So I just made the decision, and it's the best decision I could make. Getting back to the artist now, because when you get that stuff, like when that happens to you, if you get cancer, and my friend, one of my best friends, Crystal Lowe, she's documented she's so brave. I love you, Crystal Lowe. Documented her journey of being diagnosed with cancer. It was around the same time as well that I possibly could have been. And when she told me, man, we were just in tears. And it's been just this incredible journey with her. And again, I'm not disclosing anything that hasn't already been disclosed, because again, she's been so brave in talking about her journey. 16 rounds of chemo and 15 rounds of radiation, and aggressive, double mastectomy. But what was really good was she had this amazing community of friends around her, because she's such a great community person. that everybody, rallied around her. And crazy thing, she was still able to work and direct a film or two while going through this whole thing. But, I'm like, she's like my little sister, so I get on her about resting. I get on to a lot of my friends about resting. That you doing, like, running around and moving around the front end, is it worth it in the back end? This is my own personal question too, because I was a doer and kind of did stuff like super fast and super quick and got to get stuff done. But I saw that it was maybe shortening, or could possibly be shortening, my lifespan in the back end. And I still have a lot of dreams and goals. So without making myself feel bad, is that extra little bit of meat, that steak, that extra burger, the fried thing, gonna help me move forward in my journey? And again, that comfort eating, rather than that comfort eating, maybe sitting in that uncomfortable feeling, the feeling of sadness, the feeling of grief, whether you didn't book the job, or feeling sad for your friends who are struggling health-wise. Again, back to those sacrifices. There is someone I know who has had this successful career, like huge, global. I don't feel comfortable naming names, but I got to meet them in a very more personal time and moment near the end of their life and near the end of their time of career. And I had this amazing, I'm telling you, amazing career with fans and people and so much adoration. But life still happens. So they were going through some really difficult health stuff and needing to make decisions about their life. And going through some whole personal stuff of grief and loss. And it made me wonder that no matter how famous you are, no matter how much money you make, no matter how loved you are, when all the glamorous lights and stuff are off, you're still deep down a human being with human problems like family and health. I don't think this person regretted anything from what it sounds like. I'm so grateful that this person contributed so much to the world, and grateful that I could, in a way, support this person during a very difficult time. But they still got sick. In Buddhism, the four sufferings: birth, old age, sickness, death. And I think I mentioned before, and somewhere squeezed in there's taxes. But just, it took me a while to process that whole experience of supporting this person and supporting this process, and just being there's people who get sick, but there's also the people who give the care. There's a level of that too that we sometimes forget how much that takes out of a person. and how they need time to recover as well. They need that breathing space, that fresh air from having to hold so much space. So as an artist, is it worth it? Like, is it worth pushing those extra hours or working so much? And this person, again, back to this person, like, it was such a human reaction to say, because they were going through some grieving and the loss of someone they really cared for, said, did I work too much? Maybe I'm like, no, you're not responsible for the choices that person made. But for themselves, maybe I wonder if what the lesson I'm trying to get from them and glean from that whole experience is, maybe I started asking myself, do you need to work this much? Do you need to push this much? Or is, again, as an earlier conversation, is that somebody's expectations of you? Versus what's natural for yourself and what's natural for your health, and not just the physical health. Let's talk about mental health. The artist and mental health. What actors have to go through, because actors physically have to kind of, move, and the audition process is such a stressful situation, and memorizing lines, but don't get me wrong, I love it. I've been doing it for so long, but having to memorize lines, having to inspire your managers, have to again stay healthy. That's why I said I took that year. I'm not for the first time. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I don't have to worry about what I eat just for a year, because I knew the pandemic was going to be that long. But what we mentally have to go through, especially some really deep characters, but even the dramatic characters, but I feel comedy is a little harder because you have to do timing and come from a different place. That what we physically have to go through, psychologically have to go through for the character. But on top of that, most of our job, we're being rejected a lot. No. And the people outside of us who are civilians, I call them, don't understand that we get so excited when we get an audition or a callback and not the job, or an avail and not the job. And then we have to kind of brush it off, lick our wounds, and continue on to, to the next one. And again, if you don't give up, there's always going to be a next one. There's always going to be, if you just don't know, what's around the corner. And sometimes I want to quit 3 or 4 times a day. But if I'd stopped, I wouldn't have had these amazing experiences. I wouldn't have done, a movie. And I'm going to name drop, okay? But it's not about for the sake of name dropping, but to kind of go, and I talk about this value and worth thing in a previous thing. If you look up, I might include that, as something, one of those little YouTube link things, when I talk about value and knowing your value. But I did a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Toni Collette. Who gets to do that? So, and I ended up doing a commercial with Will Ferrell last year, I mean, I got cut out of it, which again, mental health, like that took a little bit to recover. That took like, because you start wondering like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, what did I do? Oh, I said the F word. I'm going to try and beef that out. But I had to recover from that. There's a few times where like I'm so excited about being in a project, and you go to the screening, you're like, oh, where the hell am I? And to not psychologically, mentally, like fall apart and transform and get through the guilt and shame. But if you get through that and stick around and like again recover from it mentally, which will strengthen you in the long run, the opportunities I've gotten, and also to remember, have gratitude and remember all of those things, the victories. When you're feeling down mentally, just I again, I don't know if I think I said in the last one, I have this book where I've kept a lot of my mementos, small little mementos from shows I've worked on, that keep me going, and keep me healthy. And now, like I think I walk. I make sure I at least get 20 minutes in the morning to walk. I sound like an old person, which I kind of am now. I get my stretches in, because I'm just not feeling the gym anymore. Like, it's excuse me, it's stanky. People are checking people out, and I just want to go in and do my thing. Water, healthy. Play my music. You know, I'm not a social person at the gym necessarily, unless maybe, you know, it's a yoga class and you start seeing the same people, which is also good. But so I get my walks in. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Nichiren SGI Buddhist, so I chant, which for actors, if you have a spiritual practice, that's going to help your mental health, and a consistent one. That's why it's practice. But, you know, I've been chanting for 28 years now. I didn't think I'd make it past 5 minutes of it, because it was just like, what's this language? What's this strange sound? But as an actor, where things are so crazy and awry and we don't know what's going on, it bookends my day. I have a great way to start something, and I have a great way to finish it. And I'm so grateful for that. Because when my ass gets kicked physically, mentally, emotionally, I've got this anchor. So whatever spiritual practice that is for you, whether it's Christian, Muslim, meditation, a mix of all of it, you know, that I think that's vital. Journaling is good. Baking, I like, you know, if I'm feeling stressed out, I'll stress bake. Healthier stuff, like I said, I didn't realize, you know, almond flour and aquafaba and all these crazy ingredients that don't contain protein, shirt's kind of slipping here, are amazing, and have gotten all my blood levels back to normal, or starting to get back to normal. They're not quite there yet, but they're better than they were before. Jeez, like I couldn't believe when I look at it now and I look at the graphs, those little your graphs, your historical graphs of your blood tests, I'm like, wow. I guess I didn't want to see it. I just wanted to enjoy the moment and enjoy the food, like, which we should. But cause and effect, there comes a time where you have to, if you want to make the choice of living longer and seeing your friends and having this great career and being on top of your game in a very stressful situation, like being part of a U.S. national campaign or being part of a show where, a lot of people are watching, and the pressure and the money put behind it, that takes a lot of being healthy, because there's glamorous parts of being an actor, but there's a lot of sitting around and long hours and waiting, and then you have to be on your game. So if you're not at the baseline, and this could be anything, but if you're not at the baseline of healthy and in fighting shape, your career is going to suffer. Your life is going to suffer. And being able to take care of that and going into some really dark places. For me, commercials have been really great in the sense that, yes, I'm, helping support these national campaigns, but at the same time, there's, for what was going on right now, not a lot of heavy lifting, because in the past few years, I've been going through a lot of grief. Lots of losses of really dear friends and some family, which everybody goes through or has gone through. So again, taking care of that mental health and being present and seeing what you really need. I've really kind of, when I stress out, one really good thing I want to share before I start wrapping this up, if I'm like spinning and spiraling and triggered, I pause and ask myself, what's the best thing I could do for myself in this moment? What's the best thing? It could be just not doing anything. It could be chanting. It could be baking. It could be going for a walk. It could be maybe I need a nap. All that stuff is being conscious, because we're being bombarded by so many things. But if we're conscious in the moment, whether we're seeing some doom scrolling while we're on our phones, or watching something on the street happening, or getting into an argument with a stranger or not, or someone that you'll be able to manage and pivot it and be able to kind of go, oh, if you practice this, not in that moment, but what's the best thing I could do for myself in the moment? If you keep asking yourself that in this moment, what's the best thing you start building. It starts moving you in the right direction. It's not always going to be perfect, but if you start that practice, I think that's the takeaway for this health chat. Is if you are able to practice, what's the best thing I could do for myself in this moment? And ask yourself that question. It'll lead to the next moment. It'll lead to the next moment, and it'll lead to the next moment. That's what we call consciousness, or being conscious, or enlightened. In Buddhahood, in Buddhism, we call that being enlightened. Seeing yourself truly in that moment and knowing what to do and making the right cause will lead eventually to the right effect. So, what's the best thing you can do for yourself in this moment? And then you'll have a healthier, happier life. See you next time.